Everybody does, man. I tell you, if you name some of the biggest, baddest dudes in Goldsboro, I mean, I'm talking about back I'm talking about old school dudes, man. They all, at some point in time, they all had, they got pits, got put in a corner, and they rolled on somebody, man.
From local stories to Wayne County news, get ready to dive into everything happening in North Carolina with Taylor House Publishing. Got a story to share? Shoot us an email at taylorpublishinghouse@gmail.com. If you're looking to publish your book or need some top-notch mentorship, we've got your back. Join the excitement with the one and only Richard Taylor, right here at Taylor House Publishing. Speak with Richard directly at 919-587-7782. Don't forget to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and invite your family and friends to watch.
From Wayne County to the Carolina coast, Taylor House brings the news you love most. Tune in on YouTube, don't miss a beat. Local stories that keep you in your feet.
Taylor House, we got the scoop. Taylor House Publishing.
All right, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Richard Taylor back with another episode from Taylor House Publishing. And what you just heard is the voice of a former law enforcement officer. And as you hear him talking about the role of snitches in the streets as it relates to Goldsboro, North Carolina. Now, there have been a lot of conversation, and I always hear a lot of things about people snitching in the streets. I've heard various names over the years. I've actually did a couple of stories where articles and court documents have released names of informants who were in the streets. Nevertheless, I've been sitting on this interview from a law enforcement officer for a long time, and I've been waiting for the perfect time to release it. So today I'm going to play you parts of that video, which exposes a lot of the snitch culture in what we call the streets, or or the drug game, or the criminal game. Now, why am I doing this now? Because it was a few days ago I saw a post from one of my Facebook friends. It goes by the name of Visky Best. Now, because he has it on social media, I'm going to read it right here verbatim in the hearing. Visky Best 4 days ago, so that's about September the 6th. It says in quotes, "While we can't undo past tragedies, we can act now. Every person released from state or federal prison must have their motion of discovery available on the streets for 90 days and accessible for examination afterwards. Stay true, stand up, street justice." And so if you don't understand that post, a motion of discovery is what evidence that the prosecution uses to present against a defendant in a case. Now, that evidence could be statements written by the defendant or other people. There could be evidence collected, guns, fingerprints, also witness testimony. Who is going to testify against this person? And various other materials related to a criminal court case. And so Visky Best is asking people who's been released from prison to bring your motion of discovery, so that way they can know who's a stand-up guy and who's not, who's telling or who has told on others, or who has been willing to tell to beat their particular court case. Now, a day before that, and you're going to read this one with me as well, Visky Best says, "Rats don't get happy. If you're getting out of federal prison and still active on the streets, bring your paperwork to the streets ASAP. we're just getting started. No rats, street code, stay true to yourself. Now, once again, he asked them, you know, if you're getting out of federal prison and you still calling yourself being involved in street activities, he's saying, okay, bring that state paperwork. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I did a interview with a young man from Durham, counting up five, and he talked about that same thing about the paperwork. You know, when you walked on the yard, you had to have your paperwork ready, or within 30 days, you had to have your paperwork or something might happen to you. So I guess that's what my brother Visky Best is imploring those guys who getting released from prison and call themselves, you know, street dudes, to come bring your stuff so we can examine it. And so this is why I'm sharing this video, because I just saw this post, and once again, I've heard several names of the years. Now, if I was to mention those names that I've heard, I haven't had any proof, but if I was to mention the name that I've heard, and I've heard from several people, and everybody on the streets are saying these names of the people who have been snitching, then the narrative would be Richard Taylor says that you were a snitch, right? So I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to mention any names, because once again, I don't want that on my jacket, as they call it in the streets, jacket. And so in order for you to call a person a snitch, you have to have exact proof. As I was talking to one of my brothers, he was like, man, you know, in this game, if you call somebody that, you gotta have proof. Like, that's like calling a straight man a homo. That's what he compared it to. Like that's like calling a straight man a homo if you call a man a snitch and he isn't. So I'm not going to mention any names, but I'm pretty sure everybody watching this video can name a name that they've heard from the mouth of 10 other people in this city that has been snitching. But nevertheless, you don't have to hear it from me. I'm going to let you hear it from the mouth of this law enforcement officer right here. Just bear with me. You see, I have my notes here because I have to timestamp this thing, because he gets into a lot of information. But I'm not going to play all of the things, because some of this is not relevant, and some of this may put him in a vicarious position. So let's talk about this thing. Here we go.
You're just living in the aftermath of my former life.
You said your former life?
Yeah. You know what? I'm not in law enforcement anymore.
Oh, yeah. So there you go. You can hear him. He said, well, you know, I'm just living in the aftermath of my former life. And just to let you know that this is a law enforcement officer, you heard him say, well, you know, I'm not in law enforcement anymore, right? So I'm going to skip through, because we were talking about some things that I've heard about his career. And so I'm going to skip to when he starts talking about various snitches and cases. So there he's talking about a situation, and he talks about, you know, being in possession of some things that, you know, informants had bought, but they never, you know, pressed charges on them or things like that. So that's just a precursor to, you know, him mentioning using informants. And here he goes again mentioning an informant of his. And so there he mentions he had an informant, and he mentions the informant's name, but I blocked the informant names out because, once again, it's not my position to expose that, right? You know, don't want nobody getting mad at me. But he clearly says, you know, he had a guy buying work from another guy, which I also blotted his name out for, you know, for safety purposes, I'll say. But let's continue where he goes on to talk about more about this snitching thing.
So
You was buying from as an undercover.
I was using it. He was trying for me.
Okay, okay. And so once again, there he mentioned his particular informant. He said that he was buying dope all around the city with this particular informant, right? And so that lets you know that there's guys out here that's supposed to be street guys that are really actually out here working, right? And let me continue on to this part right here.
Yeah, he was too comfortable with his informant. Even back whenever he was with the dude that we call him, I can't remember I'll think of his name in a minute, but he got too comfortable with his people. So
everybody was kind of dealing with informants though, but then you know there was a certain line that you kind of didn't cross with. So there he goes once again mentioning. You heard the question I asked. I said, well, everybody has informants working for them, but this particular person, and I think we all know who that person is by now, was getting too close to their particular informant, right? And so here I'm gonna play this last clip, right? This last clip, and it's about 3 minutes long.
he did a couple things, but that was a while back. The last time it was like some sheriffs or something stopped him with the DEA and picking up the case. And then of course, a lot of the wire case that busted up a bunch of mess people and stuff. The case that was working, he was dropping a lot of info. Everybody is though, man. I'm sure. So everybody was snitching, man. Everybody. I can tell you every single of all the big boys, all the big players, when I was working all kinds of those cases, everybody was snitching on everybody, man.
Wow.
The whole streets was messed up, it was on fire.
So what?
Still working, you know, it's one of those things, you don't go to prison, if they can kick you out as long as you're still putting in some good information.
Yeah.
Everybody does, man. I'm telling you. If you name some of the biggest, baddest dudes in Goldsboro, I mean, I'm talking about I'm talking about old school dudes, man. They all, at some point in time, they all had it. They got put in a corner and they rolled on somebody, man. At least 3 or 4 dudes that was trying to turn, that was in his operation.
Yeah.
I mean, one of his top lieutenants got arrested. He was a top lieutenant, but as soon as he got the feds picked him up, man, he was ready. And you know how it works, man. It's for life. And I understand a lot of these guys, they would actually be like, man, I normally wouldn't tell them. I mean, I ain't trying to be 30 years. Well, so in the state world, I don't think it's so intelligence.
Yeah.
Let's just say you got hit. Let's just say like a drug unit in the sheriff's office or an FBI agent stops you with some drugs. Now they have the ability to talk to a district attorney, and they can get a lot. They can almost get a whole case squashed. Let's just say, you know, I caught you with a ball, but you turned me on to a kilo. I can get that whole case squashed in the state.
Yeah.
Except by the feds, the federal government, they don't let stuff slide like that.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That last 5-minute segment, this gentleman, he mentioned a lot of names. You know, he mentioned a few major players, and you know how they or members of their organization was even trying to snitch on them. And it's funny because just yesterday, I'm reading an article from the Eastern North Carolina Department of Justice.gov. And just yesterday, a man that I know, who's always been a stand-up guy, in my opinion, He actually bought a few of my books one time. But this article says that Mr. Tamarcus Ellis was convicted yesterday in a federal court. And, you know, without getting too in detail about his case, but he was convicted of conspiracy and possession with intent to distribute meth and 2 counts of distributing meth. So according to this conviction in this article, it says that Ellis used low-level underlings in his organization to deliver drugs while he monitored the drug deal from nearby. The underlings testified at trial that Ellis supplied them with drugs for their delivery to the confidential source. So basically, what this saying is how Mr. Ellis got caught is the people who were in his organization, according to this article, they testified at court. Now, I did receive some information about this case, and I was supposed to go up there and see if the information was true. I was alerted that, you know, certain individuals was transported to the federal prison right before this man's trial, and the individual who said, you know, wanted me to go and see if that those people were going to testify in court. Now, I didn't go because I forgot about the case, but as we see from this article, that gentleman who gave me the information was spot on, because apparently the people who Mr. Ellis thought were loyal to him eventually testified against him. So I'm just sharing this because, once again, I saw the post from Mr. Visky Best, and also this article just happened yesterday. So this is just one example. And as you heard the gentleman on the recording speak, you know, he spoke of a lot of examples of everybody snitching. When you get in that room and they're talking about life in prison, don't believe that your homeboy is going to adhere to that code. Now, as we've seen and I've heard, you know, that there is a lot of that going on. Now, once again, I'm so far removed from the streets of Goldsboro. I think the last time I used to run around here was back before I moved to Virginia in 2001, at the end of 2001. So that's almost 23 years ago. Now, I've always kept my ear to the streets, and I've always heard certain names. And, you know, you guys can, you know, be honest if you want. You know, you might want to, I mean, I'm not saying you can, but if you can throw some names in the chat. You know, I'm not trying to put anybody out there, but because I don't have any proof. But if I'm hearing the same names over and over and over and over again through different people, then, you know, I have no choice but, you know, to hold some credence to those allegations. Now, once again, I don't have any paperwork, and like my homeboy told me, that's not something you call somebody unless you have concrete evidence. So I dare not say any names, but, you know, we got to be careful. And when I say we, I mean my brothers. When you're out there doing these type of things, you know, because, you know, like I always say, like amount of cocaine the size of this block right here can get you the rest of your life in prison. Something this small, getting caught with it can get you the rest of your life in prison. Or if someone says that you had something this small, they these days they don't even, in federal cases, you don't even have to have it in your possession. Somebody can just say you said that you were going to get this, or you inquired about a price, as I've heard at one time, you know, that they can get you with conspiracy. I just talked with a young man yesterday who spent about 8 or 9 years in federal prison. He was like, man, you know, they never caught him with nothing, but he had 22 people on his case that he never met. You know, it was only 2 people who was slated to testify against him that he ever met in life. So that's the risk that you're taking, you know, when you're out there. I don't, you know, I faced the rest of my life in prison before. for something I didn't do. So I understand the pressure. Like, I don't want to commit no crime. Like, I don't, you know, I do a little speeding ticket, you know what I'm saying? A little reckless driving here and there. But, you know, other than that, you know, you can keep all your money, you can keep all your jewels, you can keep all your cars. Like, none of that is worth my freedom. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I just hope y'all recognize, man, out there in the streets, man, that, you know, the streets ain't loving nobody. You know what I mean? And we all know, we've seen lately the trigger that got no heart, like Scarface used to say. But you know, definitely be careful when you're running around, you know, with these guys, because they're going to turn on you, as, you know, the ex-officer said. So 919-587-7782. I thought this was a relevant conversation because of the post from Mr. Best, and also because of this recent conviction of a young man who was convicted on the testimony of somebody he was probably running with every day, and also probably somebody he was feeding on a regular basis. And when we say feeding, that means allowing them to get money, at your discretion. So, or supplying them. But nevertheless, man, y'all be careful out there. Got to be a better way. It got to be a better way. Like Tila said about, gotta be a better way. A better way, better way. Yeah, big ballin'. Like my homeboy used to love that song, right? Country self. But yeah, man, y'all stay woke out here, man, and peace and blessings, and hopefully, we'll find a better way to, kind of make some money and provide for our families, man. But y'all be safe. Peace and love.
With the one and only Richard Taylor, right here at Taylor House Publishing. Speak with Richard directly at 919-587-7782. Don't forget to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and invite your family and friends to watch.
From Wayne County to the Carolina coast, Taylor House brings the news you love most. Tune in on YouTube, don't miss a beat. Little stories that keep you in your feet.
Taylor House, we got the scoop.